there's no reason to go to a retreat center. There's no reason to go on retreat. There's no reason to live there for 6 years. There's no reason to learn about the Dharma. There's no reason to be Buddhist. There's no reason to meditate. And there's reason to do all of that, right? And that was absolutely perfect for me to do all of that. And then I realized I don't need to do all of that. I don't need to do any of it. So wherever I am is okay.
Welcome back to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. My name is Reka and I am your host. If you are a returning listener, thank you so much. And if you are a new listener, thank you for showing up and listening to this week's episode. So this podcast, Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast, was started a year and a half ago because I wanted to interview full-time yoga teachers from all over the world. Since I've been teaching yoga full-time for almost 10 years, I really want to hear from other teachers who's been doing this longer than I have, or who's been doing this as long as I have, about how they make teaching yoga and their passion into their career and living. And what I think is so interesting is that there's no one right way. There's so many beautiful, unique ways that different yoga teachers highlight their strength to make this into a career. So I hope you really enjoy all the interviews I get to have with yoga teachers from across the world, different backgrounds, and different journey and path that they have taken to kind of make it work. Little bit of announcements before we get started on this week's podcast is that I have a retreat coming up in Nicaragua. It is from July 12th through the 19th, so less than a month away. And I have one room left. So if anybody is interested in signing up for last minute vacation, this retreat might be for you. We're going to northern western coast of Nicaragua. It's a less traveled area and almost feels like slightly more untouched and beautiful part of Nicaragua. It's known for surfing, so beautiful beaches with beautiful waves and nature, jungle, all kinds of beauties surrounding us as we immerse ourselves in yoga and also service for a week. What's different and unique about this retreat is that I am partnering with local nonprofit organizations, 2 nonprofit organizations actually, and part of the money that people sign up to come to my retreat will be directly donated to these grassroots nonprofit organizations doing amazing work in the local community. And part of the activities that we are going to be doing together on this retreat is volunteering for these organizations. So I believe we can travel in a way that is less harmful to the community that we are visiting, as well as the environment that we're visiting. We're coming in as a guest and we're going in there with open heart and also to learn rather than just take or benefit from the places we're visiting. So besides volunteer work, we'll be also doing yoga practice twice a day. There'll be some fun activities like baby sea turtle releasing or hiking or sweat lodge called Temescal that we'll be taking part of. So I'm very excited for this retreat. If you want to join us, it's not too late. I have one room open. This can be for a solo traveler or somebody who's traveling with their partner or best friend. The prices will vary depending on whether you're coming alone to share or if you will be sharing that room. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll put the link to the retreat details on the show notes. Another announcement is that I will be teaching 2 weekends of accessible yoga training for yoga teachers, and this will be part of Ra Yoga. It's RA Yoga Studio located in Orange County in Long Beach. And it's part of their 300-hour teacher training modules, but it's open to any yoga teachers to join. So if you want to learn about how to make yoga accessible and how to become accessible yoga teacher, this training is for you. It's 2 weekends in August, 2 Saturdays in August. So I'll put the info, dates, and how you can register on the show notes as well. That is it for my announcement today. And I have a really exciting interview to share with you this week. And this week I've interviewed Cayce. And Cayce is not a yoga teacher, Cayce is a meditation teacher. And I recently have taken one of his offering when he taught 6 weeks of fundamentals of Buddhism course in person here in Long Beach. And it was such a great course, and I just have a huge respect for him. So I really wanted to bring him on and ask him all the questions about how he became a meditation teacher. I've known Cayce for a while. We both live in Long Beach. We both are kind of in a similar community network. And I always had a huge respect for him, but I also felt like he was a little mystery as well. So I was really excited that I got to ask him questions and learn about his life and journey of how he got to where he is at, and also how he make a living as a meditation teacher. So I am so excited to be joined by Cayce Howe, a meditation teacher with over 25 years of experience and deep commitment to Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Cayce has lived and worked in meditation retreat centers for nearly 6 years, including completing a full 1-year silent retreat. His path has been shaped not only by study and solitude, but also by the powerful experience of caregiving for a loved one in chronic pain, which deepened his understanding of mindfulness and compassion. In this episode, we talk about Cayce's transition from seeker to teacher, the wisdom gained through extended retreat, and the delicate balance between spiritual practice and the business of teaching. Cayce speaks from a place of authenticity, emphasizing intention, service, and community over performance or perfection. If you are a yoga teacher or a meditation teacher or anybody who work in the field where you are making a living or making a career out of what you really love and what you find is very sacred, I think you'll really enjoy this conversation I had with Cayce. I hope you'll enjoy our conversation just as much as I really enjoyed speaking to him. Let's get started, and I will speak to you on the other side. Welcome, Cayce, to Full-Time Yoga Teacher podcast. I'm so excited that I get to have this conversation with you. So I feel like I've known you for, I don't know, maybe like 5-6 years. We live in Long Beach. We're kind of in a similar community here in Long Beach.
Uh-huh.
But I don't feel like I haven't had like a really long, deep conversation with you yet. So I'm really excited to chat to you and get to know you more. So please tell the listener, where are you joining us from today? And also, where are you originally from?
I'm joining you from a few blocks away from you.
Yeah.
I'm in Long Beach. Like you mentioned, we live really close to one another. Long Beach, California. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, like right south of Oakland.
I didn't know you were from the Bay Area.
Mhm.
Okay. For the listeners, Cayce, I know Cayce as a meditation teacher and also teach Buddhism and meditation in Long Beach. So can you share like how that got started? Like how did you first get interested in that?
In meditation itself.
Yeah, meditation or Buddhism or whichever came first.
Yeah. So, I've been practicing for about 35 years. And how I got into it was I was reading a book. I was reading Siddhartha. I went to a Catholic high school. I was reading Siddhartha in a comparative religion class. I think I was like 15 years old. And I read something about, of course, it was about the Buddha, but about enlightenment, the awakened one. And that got me really on my pursuit. Although I had my grandma on my mom's side was part of the Theosophical Society. So she was a student of Gurdjieff, Ouspensky, Madame Blavatsky, like some Sufism and things like this. But I was so young. Those are pretty deep authors and teachers and whatnot. So I did have that influence growing up, but it wasn't until I read that book that I was really on a pursuit of enlightenment. I had no idea what that was. But I lived next to this beautiful, amazing library, Fremont Library, and I checked out for sure every single Eastern thought book they had. Read them all. And then I was next to Berkeley, so I had access to these insane bookstores like Black Oak Books, Shakespeare Company, Moe's, and I like to think that the leftover, like, hippies from the '70s, they were these used bookstores had all these amazing, like, old spiritual books, and so those became really my teachers, and I was just like a spiritual junkie. I just wanted to know what it was. I would read anything, you know? So that really started the path for me.
But you were in Catholic school.
Yeah.
Okay, so was your parent Catholic, and were you raised in very like spiritual or religious household?
No. No and no. No, like, it's kind of funny though, when my mom was pregnant with me, she would tell me about the yogis. So, basically, when she was pregnant with me, she, she went to yoga for the first time, and she had a yoga teacher, and the yoga teacher was a student of Paramahansa Yogananda, which I didn't know his name yet or anything like that, but, she would tell me about this yogi. She would tell me these stories and about yogis, and that was about it. Like, after that kind of period of her life, she didn't really pursue spirituality. It was more my grandma, and I wasn't Catholic either, but they liked the school. So I went to 12 years of Catholic school just because they liked the school. My parents did, but yeah.
And since you were there for 12 years, were you interested in Catholicism as well, or was there some part of you who was like wanting to learn more of the Eastern philosophy, or did you have any conflict or, with the what you were being taught in school, or what was the relationship with that?
Yeah, I loved all religions, so
Mhm.
I was all about it. I loved hearing about Jesus and everything, but I really wasn't into structure
Mhm.
or committing to something. I was interested in the essence teaching even back when I was little. I remember they tried to do the first Holy Communion ritual in Catholicism, and it was just kind of a thing that you did as a class.
Mhm.
And, so I remember them taking us down to the church because the school we had a church attached, and
Mhm.
they started going through it, and everyone was just going to do it. It was like kind of a practice thing or something, and I remember saying, "Do I have to do this?" And they're like, "Well, no, you don't have to do this, but, like, everybody's doing it." And, I went home, I told my mom, "No, I don't wanna do that." And then it was really weird. I just sat there in the pew and, like, all my classmates did it. And
Uh-huh.
they did the thing, but I was like, I love what you guys are talking about, but there's something about the ritual or something about it, maybe the dogma around it or something, I don't
Yeah.
know, but I wasn't into that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no conflict, and my high school was awesome. Like, again, the comparative religion class, it was really unbiased, and it was very much a deep look into different thoughts and different philosophies, and it was really just like a deep dive into them and without any kind of bias at all. So, that was great.
Amazing. It seems like you had
Yeah.
a really healthy relationship with all the spirituality and religion and your parents
Yeah.
being
Yeah,
supportive.
overall, pretty much.
Yeah. And what happened after graduating high school?
Yeah, so I was very insatiable with the reading and practicing, and I really gravitated towards the yogis. So there
Mhm.
was an amazing publication or a publisher at the time, the Yogi Publication Society, something like that. And what I realized is that like the mountain yogis would really just give everything up. They would tell you the techniques because I didn't care about the fluff. I want to know how to do it myself. Like I didn't care about really the philosophy. Jesus said, these things I could do, you can do too, even greater
Mhm.
things than this you could do. Like I wanted to experience it myself. So I was looking for meditation manuals.
Yeah.
And the yogis would just I don't know, it would just, like, give you the secrets,
Uh-huh.
so it was awesome, and, like, in all the books that I was reading, like, Buddha, I've learned later, it's somewhat secret because it's a spoken word lineage and whatnot, so
Uh-huh.
I wasn't finding, and then you have the new age stuff back then. This is like the late 80s, early 90s. And I had an affinity toward lineages because a lineage, they would kind of vouch for each other. So I could put some faith into that. If somebody had a good, strong lineage, right? Like a new age person, yeah, they might be realized, they might be not, but somebody with a lineage, you could really, really tune into that. And so I realized at some point I have to really sink my teeth into something because I kept just learning more and more, but I was going more horizontal and not going deep. I wasn't going really deep into something. And Paramahansa Yogananda, which I mentioned my mom would tell me stories about, he wrote Autobiography of a Yogi, which was just one of the tons of books that I read back in the day. And I thought, this guy seems pretty legit. Well, he had written a 3-year at-home study program. So the Self-Realization Fellowship was an organization that continued after his death. And so you can get this at-home study program. So I started that pretty much, maybe I was still in high school or right out of high school. And I did that. And that got me connected to the first center where I ended up moving. So I spent about 13 years in that lineage, if you will. So more Hindu based, but I guess technically it's the Gurdi, which means mountain sect of Himalayan mountain yogis. So they're really into enlightenment or bust, which is my thing. It's not really a lot of philosophy or Hinduism per se. There's definitely the underpinnings of that, but it's very meditation based, very technique based. Yeah.
You moved to your first, what is it? What did you call it? Retreat center?
Yeah, retreat meditation center.
Okay. Where was that and how old were you when you first moved?
Yeah, so in my early 20s, I was caregiving for my high school sweetheart. She got really sick, and so that kind of um, kept me from moving
Yeah.
for a while. And I was a pipe fitter. I was in the union. I was a union pipe fitter,
Oh.
and so my dad, my brother, we all did that.
Uh-huh.
So after 5 years, you get vested, and so I knew that if I could stick it out for 5 years, then I'd have something to fall back on for the rest of my life. So my plan was finish the apprenticeship program, which basically like my college, if you will, and then I can go anywhere I want, all around the country, and I could have a union, to back me, all of that stuff. So that's what I did. In the meantime, I found a center outside of Santa Barbara that was part of the Paramahansa Yogananda lineage. And so I would go down there every chance that I could and go do a retreat down there. And they'd been together for about 35 years at the time. So this was in maybe the mid 90s. I started going down there and meditating with them. And I learned so much because they were amazing meditators. Again, meditating together from the time of Yogananda, by the time, direct disciples of Yogananda, well, at least the founder. And then when I finished my apprenticeship program, I think I was maybe 27, 28 years old. That's when I moved down there full time. I moved to that center. So it was a Paramahansa Yogananda center. And I told my boss I'd be gone for like 3 months. And it was 6 years. Yeah, not all at that center, but that was the beginning
Okay.
of living at the centers. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were going there little bit of time at a time, whether it's weekend or weeks at a time to do meditation. And then once you were able to like completely leave Northern California, you're like, I'm gonna move there. So this center took both like people who want to be there full time, kind of like live there, and they also did more like shorter trainings.
Yeah, exactly. No one really went down there to live anymore like that. They did that in the 70s, and they were up to like 300 people at one point. And yeah, long story there, but there's about 35 to 40 quote unquote left. I didn't really know that. I just thought they're a spiritual community and they're going to let me come live there. I kind of begged and pleaded. The founder was always like, yeah, more the merrier. But, there were some gatekeepers there of like wanting to protect the community and everything. So they just wanted to make sure I was serious. But then once they realized, I kept coming and it took years, but then it was wonderful. And I still consider them like a family. Like they're just amazing humans and wonderful. Yeah.
So how long did you end up being there before you moved to next place?
Yeah, so I ended up being there for 2 years,
Mhm.
and in that time, I met a woman
Mhm.
who ended up being my first wife. She
Mhm.
was born and raised there in the spiritual community,
Wow.
and just a brilliant, amazing woman.
Mhm.
And then she is the one that actually got a job. She was a chef, and she got a job at a Tibetan Buddhist
Mhm.
retreat center
Mhm.
in near Santa Cruz.
Mhm.
And we went and visited, and we just fell in love with it. We're like,
Mhm.
"This is amazing." There's monks and nuns were incredible, the teachers were
Right.
incredible, and we thought, "Wow, this is fantastic. It's something new that we can
Mhm.
learn and dive into." So that was I had read a lot of, like, Buddha Dharma,
Mhm.
but once I really started to sit with them, that was, Atlanta Medicine Buddha in SoCal, I realized where the teachings were. They were you had to go in person, you had to get in front of the teachers, you know? And so that started my stay 4 years at Tibetan Buddhist centers, yeah.
Wow. I'm curious, when you go stay there for like a couple years at a
Yeah.
time, what does your like daily schedule look like? And also like curious, like do you have to pay or do you get to stay there without paying and you have to like do some kind of work in exchange or how does that work?
Yeah, but what's it look like? It looks like work. That's what it looks like. If you live at any kind of retreat center,
Uh-huh.
it means work with no pay.
Uh-huh.
You know, and you're just happy to do it, right? That's the base. I could say that for any place, doesn't matter what lineage. It's a lot of work, and then you get to be kind of in the field of influence, right? Like, um, so yeah, so most retreat centers have it's kind of a similar model where you get room and board for work in exchange. Very rarely do you get any kind of wage on top of that. So you have to come in there with basically no bills. Like, back then, when, like, none of us had health insurance or anything, like, it was just bare bones, you know, and we're talking, like, outside I didn't take a shower inside for, gosh, years. Yeah. Yeah, I was all, like, outdoor
Yeah.
showers, everything, you know? Composting toilets, outdoor showers,
Yeah.
this is, like, the norm, you know? So, yeah, you work and you get to stay.
Mhm.
But you get into all the teachings, which is the goal. You get into all the teachings, you get into all the retreats for free. Really,
Mhm.
really amazing. And the Tibetan centers was wonderful because they don't center doesn't really start unless you're in the kitchen. It doesn't
Mhm.
start till like 10.
Mhm.
So we would have very supportive of your practice. So
Mhm.
you could have a few hours every single morning for your practice.
Mhm.
Super incredible.
Mhm.
And then, of course, like, we'd have a midday meditation, and then there's Dharma talks all night, so it was just really incredible.
And when you say work, like what are you doing? Are you like taking care of the properties and I don't know, cleaning places and what kind of work are you doing?
Yeah, good question. All the type of work that you would need to run a retreat center. Some people it depend on your skill sets too,
Mhm.
depending on, where you wanna fit in there. So it could be cleaning rooms, it could be in the kitchen, it could be cooking, cleaning. Being that I was a construction guy,
Mhm.
I would leave that out completely. I would tell people I wouldn't mention that at all. So at the time when I was wise by then not to mention anything about construction, but instead
Uh,
I got the job, the dream job. I told them I was into which is true. I was into technology and I built websites and I was a photographer by then. I already built tons of websites by that point,
uh,
and I said, I'm a media guy.
mhm.
And unbelievably, Atlanta Medicine Buddha put me in their media lab, and
Mhm.
we had terabytes of Dharma teachings. So
Mhm.
we would record every single retreat, and we even invited the Dalai Lama to, like, we invited the Dalai Lama to Mountain View, like a big, I'm trying to think of the venue. But anyway, we had all these teachings,
Mhm.
and back in the day, there were these things called DVDs. I know,
Mhm.
Reika, you're too young. The DVDs, and so we would convert them to DVDs and sell them
Uh-huh.
all around the world. So
Wow.
I was able to film all the teachings
Mhm.
of these extremely amazing high lamas that would come through,
Mhm.
and we'd edit them, put them on DVDs, and then sell them on our website. So it was phenomenal because I got to film the teachings, and then I would sit and edit them all day. And so I would get to listen to them over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And a lot of the teachings I was able to get into, I wasn't supposed to get into. It's very, like, level-based
Mm.
in Tibetan Buddhism and
Mhm.
Vajrayana Buddhism. There's teachings, and there's secret teachings, and then
Mhm.
there's most secret teachings,
Yeah.
and there's empowerments, and I was able to get into all of them because I had to film them.
Uh-huh.
And Lama Zopa at the time, in that lineage is the Dalai Lama is at the top of that lineage, it's Galupa
Mhm.
lineage, and then Lama Zopa, he has since passed, but he was, like, right beneath the Dalai Lama,
Mhm.
and he was our main teacher, and
Mm.
so he said that I could come and film, but I can't listen, and he laughed when he said it. He's like, "Sure, but just don't listen," you know?
Earplugs on.
Yeah, so it was super cool. Yeah, it was just, like, the best, and, for example, they have, like, a chode practice, which is very crazy, crazy practice, and, it's about negating the ego and whatnot, but, yeah, I remember sitting there, like, 3 or 4 in the morning, Lama Zopa is literally playing as a flute a human femur bone.
Oh.
He's playing that as, like, a flute, and then playing this crazy drumming, and
Mhm.
it's a whole thing. I can't believe I'm here. I
Yeah.
can't believe I'm sitting in this field right now. It's just, like, absolutely phenomenal. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That sounds really cool. And I don't come across people who have that kind of experience. So that's really cool to hear, like all the experience of living there for that long. I'm curious at that time, like during those times, did you feel like this was it? I just want to keep doing this and keep living in these places. Did you feel like this is the path and the place I need to be? Or did you feel like, well, maybe I'll one day get out and I don't know, do something else? Or
Um,
did you have not a goal, but did you have like intentionally like I want to move towards this direction in this path?
yeah, I think the main thing is in that world is retreat time. So I think everything is measured by retreat, like going into deep retreat. In the Tibetan lineage, the 3-year, 3-month, 3-day
Mm.
retreat is standard, like in that lineage. And when I met my closest teacher, Tenzin Chogi, which ended up being our resident teacher there. She had just came out of 6 years of silent retreat, which was just phenomenal to be with her in such close quarters, because yeah, her experience just kinda, like, fresh out of retreat too, like that,
Mhm.
like, her her essence mind, it
Mhm.
still is, and it was
Mhm.
just so incredible to kinda meet that right out of retreat, however, and
Yeah.
she's just a bodhisattva, just, like, just pure compassion. So I
Wow.
think that like, all the thoughts were about retreat time,
Mhm.
and so from there, I lived there for 2 years, and then actually I did go on a 1-year silent retreat from there.
Mm.
So, yeah, I was able to get a place. So there's um it's not really a retreat center, it's just for retreating. It's on retreat land,
Mm.
so it's on, Tibetan Buddhist land in Crestone, Colorado,
Mhm.
and, yeah, for a variety of reasons, I thought a year was pretty good,
Mhm.
was enough, you know?
Mhm.
And, Tenzin Chogi, kinda helped lay out that plan, and I had retreat masters there in Crestone
Mhm.
to do that retreat. So, that was kind of the goal,
Mhm.
was to do, like, long retreat. So,
Yeah.
I did my what they call a nundro in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. A nundro means preliminary.
Mhm.
So I was able to do my nundro, my preliminary practices within that year, and then also some Mahamudra, Dzogchen type of stuff. I was kinda on 2 paths at that time with different
Mhm.
teachers,
Mhm.
and so I was able to incorporate both of those and have a lovely year-long retreat. Yeah.
And during that retreat, you don't speak for a whole year.
Yeah, I mean, there's no one to talk to, really. There was other retreat people. My ex-wife was one of them on
Mhm.
the mountain. But, yeah, you don't really there's no one really to talk to. I
Right.
remember going in and I was talking to one of my friends who is a Tibetan Buddhist nun, and she had done 12 years of retreat, And
Oh,
she's
I
like,
see.
there's nothing holy about not talking. Like, if you just need to talk to your caretaker, like, you need firewood, tell him I need firewood. Like, she's like, there's nothing, like, exceptionally holy about the not talking. It's just limiting data.
Mhm.
Like, we have so much data that comes in and out of our consciousness every single day that
Mhm.
it really obscures the clarity of mind. So
Mhm.
when you limit that data in and out, that data coming out in and out, obviously you could rest into more clarity.
Mhm.
So we try not to get caught up in like, how many words did you say a month or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's no one really to talk to,
Mhm.
your caretaker who's bringing you food and this and that primarily, but that's about it, yeah.
What about, is there somebody guiding you through the year of like, this is your practice now? And then, like, I don't know, like, is there teaching that happens along the way? Or is it kind of like you get that information before you go in? And once you're in, like, that's it. Like, you're on your own for the year.
Mm, yeah, good question. No, no, there's definitely people guiding you.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had, 2 retreat masters, at the bottom of the hill, actually at a center. So
Uh-huh.
one from Nepal and one from Bhutan. Um Khenpo Jigme and Lama Wandu, and they were the retreat masters. So yeah, every few months you basically get a new practice. It takes about 3 to 4 months.
Mm.
Like if you're practicing 8 hours a day or something, just for like one part of it to
Uh-huh.
finish that, and then to get a new set of teachings.
Uh-huh.
And then it's a little. You have to kind of keep tabs on it because it can be fairly extreme, like
Mhm.
your mind when you're in quote unquote solitude like that.
Yeah.
Kenpo Jingmei is super funny. So this little
Uh,
Tibetan guy, and he would be like, in the beginning, he's like, it's okay, you won't go crazy." He had this saying, "It's okay, no problem," And then at the end, he was like, "I thought maybe 3 months you go crazy." He started laughing, uh, but there's, it's just certain because you're doing not only are you in solitude, but you're doing very like I guess in a term that people would recognize, maybe Kundalini, like forced Kundalini practices. In Tibetan Buddhism, we call it like the retreat disease called lung. It's like
mhm.
when you have a lot of energy moving through the body and
Mm.
nowhere for it to go, there can be some complications in that. So you just want to keep tabs on that.
Mhm.
And they're very well versed on how to deal with
Mhm.
these issues. So it's not something you want to be left alone for too long
Mhm.
without supervision. You
Yeah.
definitely want a
Yeah.
supervision.
I feel like nothing compared to what you did, but I did the Vipassana 10 days silent meditation.
Yeah, wonderful.
I totally, like, understand about, like, this being silent and not talking really wasn't, like, the point of the thing.
Yeah,
It was it was my, first and only one. I actually wanna do another one, but
yeah,
they, like, no phone, no writing, no
mhm,
reading, no listening to music, and, like,
uh-huh,
not, discouraging eye contact with other people, so just, like, exactly what you said, like, no data, like, coming
new
in
data,
and
yeah,
out, and so you can be with what is inside, be with your mind and, like, see
mhm,
what comes up and what comes down, and that was, I feel like, the point of the Vipassana, like, being silent is just, like, you just need to take all the distraction out so you can really sit with what is, and, so I'm sure here doing that is like, I probably can't even comprehend, the amount of amazing and probably difficult experience you had, but was it a point that you felt like, "Okay, I'm done. Like, I wanna get out," or, like, "I wanna be done," or were you kinda okay throughout the whole year?
yeah, it was actually the opposite. The longer that I was in there, like, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh," like, it cheers me up every time I think about it, like, you wanna go more, you just wanna go more because at
Yeah.
first, you never know, like, 3 years, that sounds long, and then but, like,
Uh-huh.
every month, it's, like, so incredibly profound, like, you're
Uh-huh.
just like, "Oh, you don't wanna leave,"
Uh-huh.
It's just so amazing if I had
Wow.
2 more years, and of course, it's, like, infinite, right?
Mhm.
Like, um, you can just keep going, but if you love snow skiing, then there would be nothing better than take a vacation in Colorado and go snow skiing every day, right?
Mhm.
It's the same thing if you love meditation, then you get to go in to this cabin at nearly 10,000 feet and everyone leaves you alone and it's cold as hell. It got like at least 15 below. Like a year before it got 19 below. I didn't have like I had no idea how cold it was because no way
Mhm.
for me to tell, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, very cold, very, the living conditions were extremely simple, I'll leave it at
Mhm.
that, and it was just amazing. Yeah, I just
Mhm.
got to be there with myself,
Yeah.
and it's quite a journey, like, every day, it's an amazing journey, but,
Mhm.
yeah, there's no part of me at any point that wanted to leave.
Really? So what happened, year ended and like it was time to get back out into the world and what
Yeah.
happened after that for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting because you mentioned about the end, like, did you ever think about getting out of
Mhm.
that? And I
Mhm.
actually never did because I really wasn't self-aware of what I was doing until I got out. And what I mean by that is I was a seeker, but I didn't know. I was a seeker. That was my life. So I didn't really think of anything else, like that was it.
Mhm.
But something very serendipitous happened afterwards was I had been taking a Mahamudra, retreats
Mhm.
with which Mahamudra and Dzogchen, which is a form of, usually it's near the end of the path in Tibetan, Buddhism. It's a technique or a way of being, really. And so I've been on that path for a few years before I entered into that retreat.
Mhm.
And then my next retreat with my teacher, Mingyur Rinpoche, was actually scheduled right after my retreat. So I barely had any, like, quote unquote downtime. I moved back to Vajrapani, another
Mhm.
Tibetan center, straight from the retreat.
Mhm.
So I was living there actually with Binpo Tenzin Shogi. I was living there with her, like, on the same property. And I went to that retreat, and in Vajrayana Nyingma tradition, they give something called pointing out instructions, and the teacher points out to you your true nature of mind. It's something that, depending on your capacity and all this other stuff, it just depends on the level. It's not like, hey, they're gonna give you an enlightenment experience
Mhm.
or something like that. But when the mind is fertile and whatnot, and I happened to just be on a year-long retreat, so I went right into retreat with Mingyur Rinpoche, and I got my pointing out instructions. And long story short, I won't go into the details of that, but it went from seeking to non-seeking. It was like a life before that, and then I'm gonna get teared up, but
Mm,
a
right.
life before that and a life after that. So, um, um,
Mm.
so that shifted everything, like, from that point, actually even living at a center was a little silly, like,
Mhm.
because the dharma goes away. So there's a saying that, we use the dharma to cross the river, like up
Mhm.
samsara, and
Mhm.
then when you get on the other side, you have to get out of the boat because you have to throw the dharma away. And
Right.
so once you see that, which again, I didn't know that, or like the experience, I mean, I heard that story, but I know the experience of that.
Mhm.
And then yeah, so, I mean, it's so interesting where the whole world kinda falls apart, like, even the Dharma and even I remember in that moment, like, even the teacher, like,
Mhm.
he looked silly in his robes. He had this really interesting look on his face. He's looking at me in this certain way.
Mhm.
Um, and so that was actually the end. That was the end of needing to be at the centers.
Right.
Even though I ended up being there maybe for another year or so, mm, that was it. Like, I didn't need to be anywhere,
Mhm.
and it took a while to integrate that. It
Mhm.
was completely different from that moment on. It's taken that was, how to do the math, what, 18 years ago or so something like that? It's so crazy to say that. It's a long time ago,
Right.
that a good 15 years at least.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it took me a long time to integrate that experience back into some kind of being, like a normal way of being, if you will, because that whole seeking in the way that I was seeking was conceptual. Like, I really didn't know what I was seeking for. Like,
Mm.
I was seeking this thing called enlightenment, which I had no idea what that was. And I heard, I think it's Suzuki Roshi said, "You're seeking non-seeking mind."
Mhm.
And that is so true. And then once you see non-seeking mind, the rug is pulled out. You're just like, well, what now? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just a seeker. That's all I am. That's all I know, right? And then that was kinda began my afterlife, if you will, from the centers, yeah.
And was that like a realization of like I have to move on to the next, next part of this life? Like was that from that teacher or like that was a moment in time that you came to that?
It's kind of a falling away. There wasn't a thing, it was from that experience, and then I think that organically, there's other factors that came into play that also helped that along of, like, moving out of the retreat center.
Mhm,
But the retreat center thing, that whether you're at a center or not, it
mhm,
doesn't matter. Wherever you are is, enlightenment's everywhere or whatever you wanna say, you know? So, yeah, there was no reason to be there, although there's every reason to be there, you know? Like,
mhm,
even to this day, retreats are amazing, retreat centers are amazing. But, in that moment, I realized all the things that I didn't have to do, but I had to do, if that makes sense.
mhm,
There's no reason to go to a retreat center. There's no reason to go on retreat. There's no reason to live there for 6 years. There's no reason to learn about the Dharma. There's no reason to be Buddhist. There's no reason to meditate. And there's reason to do all of that, right? And that was absolutely perfect for me to do all of that. And
mhm,
then I realized I don't need to do all of that. I don't
mhm.
need to do any of it. So wherever I am is okay.
Yeah.
But there was this new identity that needed to be, or a new non identity
Mhm.
to be explored.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a reconstruction process
Yeah.
at that point.
And if you don't mind me asking, it brought up a lot of emotion for you and you're sharing that. Was that from like memory of you needing to let go of that identity? Is that what brings up the emotion or what is the I don't know, I'm
No,
curious about the emotion that
it's 100% like grace of the teacher. Like,
yeah.
it's really phenomenal. Like, these beings, at least for me, like in my experience in that moment, you see the futility of it. And it's kind of like, to put it in the most simple terms, like Mingyur Rinpoche does not need to be on social media or writing books or traveling the world or doing all that. Like, he could just sit in his enlightened little bubble and just hang out. But he's a bodhisattva, and he's going around teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching stuff that doesn't matter, but it matters, right? And he's working tirelessly, just like Venerable Tenzin Chogi and all these beings. And so the grace is that, like, he's there and doing that and
Mhm,
assisting, and is such a powerful thing. It's such a powerful thing to see, even for a few seconds, like the true nature of reality. It's a gift you can never repay, right?
mhm,
And so, yeah, the emotion, and just like when I think about Tenzin Chogi and all these beings at Lama Zopa, all these beings that showed me certain things, it's
mhm,
the emotion is all connected to teachers, like
mhm,
all connected to that. And I think there's a little bit of sadness of when any kind of like delusion is kind of seen through. There's a little bit of sadness. There's also a little bit of sadness along the way of everything that I missed, being that I spent so long in the delusion.
mhm,
It's like it's an interesting thing, but I think most of the emotion when I think of these things is 100% has to do with the teachers, the
mhm,
grace of that. It's something that you can never, like I said, you can never ever repay that. Like, how can you repay somebody giving you that gift to introduce you back to yourself? That's,
mhm.
like, absolutely phenomenal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't have to do it, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very profound, and I just like it's so interesting for me to hear all these stories because it's yeah, it made you who you are and it brought you to where you are today. So I'm curious now. So what happened after you said it took about a year to leave the center and then
Yeah, I ended up moving down here,
Mhm,
to Long Beach, and I forget, I remember back I heard about MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction. I heard about it somewhere, I can't remember, and, I thought it was really weird that they were teaching mindfulness, like, in secular settings. Because for me, I had no contact with that. It was all very traditional, like, either be, like, basically the Hindu path or the Buddhist path, and I never heard a teaching from anyone other than like a religious person, like a clinician or a PhD. And at the time, it sounds silly to say this because there's amazing like PhD teachers like Alan Wallace and Jack Hornfield and all these amazing. But if I saw a PhD in a book, I would like throw it out. Like I want a real person, like I want. And again, they've been meditating for a long time and all that. But I would just like throw this out. So the secular thing wasn't something that I was interested in at all at the time. But when I left the retreat centers, came across Inside LA was teaching like an MBSR class. And I did think it was cool because I was in the real, quote unquote, real world now. And I thought, what are they bringing to this? What are they teaching to the regular people? And kind of why would you take this class if it's not for spirituality? Because it's like stress reduction. So I didn't really get it. But I went. And long story short, it's a 2.5-hour class. And I know it sounds funny to say this, but I think just because how I was sitting, I know it sounds really weird to say this out loud, but I think how I was sitting in the class, the teacher eventually came up to me and said, we're doing a teacher training. I think it looks like you meditate. We're doing our first ever Inside LA teacher training. We've never done this before. It's a year long. It's by introduction only. Like, what's your background or whatever? I forgot how it went. But I just told her about my background and she was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, do you want to do this teacher training with us? And I said, cool. Yeah, sure. I'll do that. And so that kind of got me started on the teaching path and I can't remember the timing of it, but when I landed here, I was really starving for community and Sangha because I had this very intense Sangha community for 6 years and really supported by a group of meditators wherever I was. And then I came to like a Dharma desert. It really wasn't, but I just wasn't connected to anybody. So I started a meetup group. And so I started teaching on Sundays, but I wasn't trying to teach. I was just trying to meditate with a group of people, but nobody knew how to meditate. So I remember calling Tenzin Jogi saying, "Can I teach them like how to sit or breath meditation?" Because in my traditions, like you would never teach, like the lamas teach or the monks teach, the nuns teach. Like we never teach. Like no one would teach. So she's like, of course, just stay with what you know. Just stay with what you know. And that's how like you've come to Sunday Sits before. That was that's been going on for 11 years. And we just started at the beach. We would just go sit at the beach. Yeah, so that kind of started how I got into the teaching part, which is completely accidental, And I don't feel worthy to this day because all my teachers were like so amazing. Like I'm like, I never feel worthy to teach Dharma, but I show up because I know what benefit it is and how much I got from it, and that we're just sitting together. It's an excuse to sit together. Like we're all sharing wisdom. I always call myself a sharer, not a teacher. We're just sharing together.
I remember, and maybe I'm skipping a little bit to the future, but I remember when you were gonna teach a meditation teacher training at Sacred Roots, and I think you were approached by someone to teach this. And I remember you expressing to me that you were a little bit unsure about teaching a meditation teacher training program because of all the kind of like, do we need, like, what's teacher training anyway? Kind of like there's this kind of thing in yoga world too, like people who have the money to pay can get the certificate and they can now call themselves a teacher, yoga teacher, meditation teacher. And I remember you were expressing like a slight, like, not sure about this, but at the same time, like, probably like it's better you do it than somebody else. And also like you were going to bring in all this amazing guest teachers who were going to teach it. And I remember feeling like so much respect for you when you share that, because there's that uncertainty because maybe as a yoga teacher and for you to who teach meditation and also all the dharmas, there's this like spirituality and sacredness to what we teach. And what is it to have a teacher training and certificate and like all this like 200-hour teacher training and this like requirement that you have to go through, and there's like a little bit of like weird disconnect there. So I also feel that sometimes. So I remember hearing you kind of share a little bit of uncertainty. And I'm like, wow, like he's really, really seriously, like, being very thoughtful about
Yeah.
how you show up to your community.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have, yeah, so much respect for you because I see how dedicated you are and how dedicated your practice is and how much you continue to learn. And you, for me, really represent the essence of yoga and what you teach. And yeah, it is like you mentioned, it's sacred and it's kind of an unspoken thing. And I think that we're trying to preserve it because I mean the worst case scenario is someone goes to, it could be a yoga class, it could be a meditation class, it could be a Buddhist class, and maybe they don't think it's a good fit for them. And hey, I'm not definitely like not the best teacher or anything, right? But I know what I don't know, and I'll be honest with that. And I never want anyone to move off or away from the spiritual path because of my unskillfulness or an unskillfulness of a teacher or even like an app or something. It's hard. Like, oh, I tried meditation, doesn't really work.
Mm.
It's been working for 2,600 years. It's like, I'm not saying that it is for everybody, not really, but that's it's a sad thought to me. And I feel like for me, again, I don't feel worthy. I think 10 years or so, it's like you're just kind of getting your head around it in a small way. And then the other thing, which is very practical, is that meditation is quite interesting in that it's not anything that you could see.
Mhm.
It's a very, very odd thing where people can say, I know I teach meditation, but like there's no way to know. Like with yoga or exercise or something, like you could even at least tell if somebody could do the movement,
Mhm.
But in meditation, it's very weird. Like I liken it, the best analogy that I've come up with is it's like if you share an ayahuasca ceremony or you give somebody the tea, but you've never drank the tea. If I teach someone meditation and they go and they start meditating 3 hours a day, every day for 3 months, do I know where they are? I taught them how to do it,
Mhm.
but do I know where they are in their mind? Can I bring them back from wherever they are? Can
Mhm.
I relate to them wherever they are?
Mhm.
I wanna be able to do that because I taught them how to do it. So,
Mhm.
like, "Hey, Casey, I'm meditating," I don't know. Some people are retired 8 hours a day. Okay, that's cool 'cause I know where they're at.
Mhm.
But so that's just another factor with meditation when it's a little bit interesting, and that just takes time. It takes time to sit within yourself and have a very dedicated practice for a length of time, just like anything else you would do before you're certified to teach it,
Mhm.
you know? Yeah.
I guess kind of going back to you moving to Long Beach and starting getting people together every Sunday to sit and having sangha. During those times, like I guess practical question is like what were you doing to live? Like what was your job or how were you trying to make a living, I guess, in this like new stage of your life, new chapter of your life after leaving the retreat center?
Yeah. So at the retreat centers, like I mentioned, I was in the media lab and I had learned online marketing because we would market the retreat centers and we'd market the DVDs. So I got really good at e-commerce and then things
Mhm.
like this. So right out of the gate, I started a company called Traffic Swami,
Mhm.
which was an internet marketing company.
Uh-huh.
And, and my goal was to, and I had a couple wonderful partners way smarter than I am, and, yeah, our goal was to help really amazing, like, conscious entrepreneur types
Right.
to help them with their businesses, to help them get traffic, so we weren't only getting traffic for just anybody, but really helping businesses, conscious entrepreneurs and whatnot get traffic. So yeah, so out of the gate, I was doing marketing, and
Uh-huh.
then little by little, I started getting one-on-one clients, kind of just through, I don't know, word of mouth or something. I didn't really have anything. I don't know how, but I started getting like one-on-one meditation clients, and
Uh-huh.
one of them was a doctor here in Long Beach, and she was a family practice doctor, but she was getting into more the mental health side of things, and wanted to start like a wellness center and this and that. So long story short, from that one-on-one client, from that doctor, I started working with her at her mental health clinic. Yeah.
Oh.
So that was a transition, and she started doing something called transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is a non-drug therapy for depression, and that's the same industry that I'm in today.
Mhm.
But along the way, we were talking about this beforehand, I had years where I was just doing meditation full time too. Yeah.
Teaching meditation.
Yeah, in a
Mhm.
variety of places, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And has it been, kinda like one opportunity leading to the next and, like, word of mouth and kind of flowing? Or was there ever a point that you're like, "I don't know if I can pay the next bill. Like maybe I need to go back to doing, the other things I used to do." Or was there any point that like, I don't know, that it got so challenging that you felt like you had to like maybe do something else?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that when I was working for 7 or 8 years at a mental health facility, and I really felt like limited in my bodhisattva vow. Like, I want to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. I want to help all beings. I want to free all beings from suffering, which is a theme in Vajrayana Buddhism. And I
Mhm.
felt like at the clinic, I was seeing 15 to 20 people a day,
Mhm.
and not like I was single-handedly helping them, but, just part of their healing process and
Yeah.
doing what I was doing there. And I figured, gosh, I really want to see about helping more beings, doing more one-to-many courses and classes and whatnot. So that's
Mhm.
when I became a full-time Dharma teacher. So I
Mhm.
teach at UCI. I teach maybe a couple MBSR. I'm a certified MBSR teacher. So I teach for, and I still do for University of Irvine. I
Mhm.
started teaching at other mental health facilities, like teaching their groups meditation that were going through like IOP programs and whatnot. Took
Mhm.
on more one-on-one clients, created some business opportunities. One was sustainable caring, which we would help connected with a doctor, a
Mhm.
really good friend of mine, teach meditation to med students and doctors,
Mhm.
which is very rewarding. And during that time, absolutely, like I would go down to 0 like every month,
Mhm.
like never knew where. And I got really good at like just going, yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
Mhm.
but I learned how to make money. Like I learned what's important. Like
Mhm.
if I need to make money, like I just need some money coming in. Cause I think in the beginning I was always very entrepreneurial,
Mhm.
but I knew how to build stuff.
Mhm.
But, like, the middle ground of, like, really connecting to the funds, I was always like, "We're offer for free," kind of a thing, like, "Oh, let everyone come for nothing," you know? And I realized that that's not sustainable to honor, the ability to do this. People are willing to give, like, I always think about when I pass churches and I see these massive churches, or I live next door to Temple Israel, and
Mhm.
there's these big, beautiful monuments, and they come from donations from the community,
Mhm.
and they're really happy to give a donation to
Mhm.
the community because it's worth it. If everyone gives a little bit, it is worth it. And
Mhm.
I thought, the Dharma is worth it. It's worth it for me to charge
Mhm.
because it's worth it for the community that I can influence, which I don't think that I'm influencing. I always look at it as I'm just really disseminating my teacher's knowledge. I'm just honoring my teachers. Like when I
Mhm.
teach,
Mhm.
that's how I look at it. And I'm just like, yeah, and I want to benefit others. I know the Dharma benefits others. It's
Mhm.
benefited me. So in my small way, to do this, I have to charge.
Mhm.
And that was a very, very difficult thing,
Mhm.
especially in Tibetan Buddhism. They think it's really bad karma to charge or anything like this, and I think that's great. I think that's a really wonderful thing, and they come from a different time, and it's a
Mhm.
different place. Like, there's a famous story, even though, like, Snow Lion at the time would publish Lama Zopa's books, he wouldn't drink their tea when he would when he would go and visit them because he didn't know how the money was spent, so it's bad jujus. If you take money from a donation, let's say if you make money on Dharma, somebody
Mhm.
comes to a class and they give you money,
Mhm.
and then you go and you have a beer, you buy a beer with
Mhm.
that. That's bad juju. Like all Dharma money has to go back into Dharma.
Mhm.
So that was something that's like totally ingrained in me for so many years, and I had to let go of that, saying, "Hey, we're in a little bit of a different time."
Mhm.
Like, there's still gonna be no more Dharma if Dharma teachers can't subvert themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, your question for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I would go down to 0, like, every month. Like, I have no idea where the money's coming from, you know? And trying to live in Southern California, like,
Uh,
it's hard and it's expensive here. We live by
yeah.
the beach, and you've seen my place, it's a tiny little place, so it's not
Yeah.
like I pay a ton of rent because I don't want to have to, have this huge, like, overhead and all
Mhm.
of that, but yeah, there's just a balance.
Mhm. Maybe I feel like I used to see you more on, like, Instagram posting, where I remember you had a book, and
Yeah.
I remember you were also selling yoga mats for a while with, like, quotes on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those kind of things, and now I don't see so much of those stuff that you're sharing online, but how do you balance, like, for me too, like, I have huge respect for, like, yoga teachings and lineage, and but then there's also part of me, well, I have to, because of the entrepreneurial side, I have to be posting on Instagram. I have to be making sure doing this and making sure sending out newsletter and this, like,
Yes.
other business side that sometimes I feel like it's easy. I can easily get caught up in or get kind of like pulled and kind of forget the, like, what's actually important and what's the essence of
Mhm.
why I'm doing what I'm doing. So like that kind of pull and coming back and trying to find the balance of this business minded of, okay, I have to make money. I'm a small business owner and all these things I have to do on the social media and this. And then but then also I'm not trying to get too caught up in that. How do you find the balance, or how have you navigated those journeys in the past?
Yeah. Such a great question. I'm sure you must have this question every podcast, right? Like, how do you deal
So
with
yeah.
the business side, and especially the social media side and
Yeah.
all of that, and I think my biggest issue of it is staying grounded to the practice. The
Mm.
practice is, like, the most important piece, and, I feel like there's a lot of, quote, unquote, "influencers" out there in whatever world. And I'm not quite sure in some instances how you can create so much quote unquote content and still do what it is the followers are there for you to do. In other words, how much yoga are you doing in your own personal practice or your meditation? And then still being able to crank out so much quote unquote content as a full time job, and then actually doing the job. So doing the practice, doing the job, and then being a social media, creator. And I feel like those three elements are the balance. And I did do those things. I just posted a lot yesterday, the last couple of days. But to answer I don't really know. I feel like I always go back to what my teacher Tenzin Chogi goes back to, which is intention. Like,
Mm.
what's your intention? What's your intention? And I'm at the point now where I luckily, in some ways, because I could offer it freely, that I do have a job now as a consultant for manufacturers of this TMS devices and whatnot. So I could just hang out with what I've had all along, which is the intention to help others. And I think if we keep a hold of that intention, then that safeguards us. Like you mentioned, like not getting caught up. All we have is our intention. That's it. Like how it's received or what comes of it, like we don't really know. But if my intention is to help beings with whatever I'm doing and sharing, then that's fine. And I've had so many things fail, and I think as a business, I think we really need to be professional failures.
Mhm.
Like, I am an absolute pro. I've failed. I mean, I could tell you 100 ways to fail.
Okay.
I mean, all those things like yoga mats, I put my quotes. I have a book,
Uh-huh.
Becoming Water, and so I put my quotes on stuff, which I
Mhm.
think I wanna see the dharma in the world,
Mm.
and so I put out, like, yoga mats, or you can get it on a mug or whatever, like,
Mhm.
with those drop ship stuff, you could put your quote on anything kind of a thing, and these really cool little stands, and no
Mhm.
one bought any of them. So, like, Shopify stores, I've done all that stuff, and no one bought them. Like, people like my quotes on Instagram. I stopped posting. I got almost at 10,000 and I just completely stopped for some reason. I
Uh-huh.
just thought, I don't want 10,000 followers. There's something about it. Like, I don't know. I don't
Uh-huh.
know why. I just stopped posting, and now I'm posting again.
Uh-huh.
But it's Yeah, I just feel like 'cause I just we just need to be genuine, at least for me.
Mm,
Genuine, and I'm posting things to help people, and I have a really hard time posting, like, my face or myself talking,
mhm,
but I that's egoic in a way. I just need to get over that, and it's, like, not about me. It's
mhm,
just about the teaching. That's
mhm,
it, you know?
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I know you still have a lot of, like, you do this and you do a little bit of that and consulting, and you also teach at a university, and you have so many things. Um, do you feel like now you're pretty good with the balances of different things that you do? Or has it taken a while to find, like, a right amount of, like, ratio? Like, this is, Sunday I teach this, and then, during the day you do this. Like, is there a nice balance you were able to find with all the different things you do?
Yeah. I don't know if
Mhm.
I found it, but it found me maybe. Yeah, things are fairly simple because there's a lot of synergy in
Mhm.
everything that I do. Um, yeah, my quote unquote day job, it's and even it, ties into my meditation stuff. So yeah, everything has a lot of synergy right now, and I don't feel too quote unquote busy.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think it's really fun to do, like, more projects, so entrepreneurial projects, so, yeah, I'm still doing stuff at night and this and that,
Uh-huh.
but, it's just for fun, but, yeah, but I think it's hard for quote unquote "conscious entrepreneurs" to find that balance, and whenever we work in, like, money or livelihood, I think the main thing is that we never compromise our ethics, and I think it's challenging. You are competing, definitely, and I don't mean this in a, I don't know, a judgmental way, but we have to be aware that we are quote unquote competing with people that might have less ethical considerations. I read this quote a long time ago, "You can't pimp what you love."
No.
Like, if you really love something, like, you can't pimp it out, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And in a way, I feel like there's some people that are maybe are not as into yoga or meditation, but
Mhm.
they like it, and it's not like they're maybe not of it, if that makes sense, but they like it, and they don't even really know that they're pimping it out or maybe making it a commodity is really
Mm.
what I'm saying. It's like
Uh-huh.
meditation has become a commodity, yoga has become a commodity, and
Mhm.
it's kinda just thrown out there as like, "Hey, you wanna do this? You wanna do that?" It's that sacredness you're talking about,
Yeah.
and when you get into it, it's just real that you are, quote, unquote, "competing against that," and it could
Mhm.
be and show up in a lot of different ways, but I think if you stay authentic to who you are and keep doing the practice, like, never losing the actual practice, like, what are you actually doing?
Mhm.
Then you're always gonna have people drawn to you.
Mhm.
Um, not like that's gonna make you $1,000,000, which
Mhm.
doesn't matter, right?
Right.
But there's always a draw to that. People definitely will
I love that. And I love what you said, like how the intention is so important of what you do, and also the importance and value you put on practice. And if you have that intention and you're continuing to practicing and you continue to show up to share the Dharma or share the teachings with the world, like you said, people will find you, or people will be drawn to that energy, I guess. So
Yeah.
I think that's such an important message. Interviewing so many yoga teachers for this podcast, that there's like everyone's so different, and they're different. They have different journeys and pathways, but there's this like couple very similar common thread throughout everyone, even coming from you who's not a yoga teacher but who's a meditation teacher, to also say like how the value of practicing and how the value of intention that you put in and being genuine. And
Mhm,
I love that. I think it's so beautiful to see this common thread that is like there from
mhm.
keep continue interviewing teachers. There's like this common thread. So I love,
Yeah.
and
Very
everybody says it differently, which I love too.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess my like kind of wrapping it up, I have a question in terms of how where do you okay, two questions. First one is, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that actually when you're talking about intention and whatnot, because success is, to me, it's present within the service. Like, if your intention is to serve, then you are automatically successful. Like, I'm successful because I served. Like, with the fruition of the service, I cannot control. Like, I can't control that.
Mm-hmm.
I can serve, I can show up. It might be received, it might not be received. No one might show up or whatever, or the universe, it might not be quote unquote received by the universe, like in the form of funds or something like that. But that's my goal. My goal is to serve. And so therefore I'm a success
Hmm.
because of my service. I'm done and I could be completely content with that. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. There's in the yoga philosophy, there's a thing called Kriya Yoga. First one is there's three steps or level to the Kriya Yoga. Maybe you have
Uh-huh.
heard of it, but first one is tapa, and that's kind of like the effort that you're making. And
Uh-huh.
like in your example, I feel like that's serving. Like you are here to serve.
Yeah.
Um, and then the next one is Swadhyaya, which is like self-study, reflection. And because you've done so much self-reflection or, meditation or all these things, you know that you are meant to be serving others. And then the last one is Ishvara Pranidhana, and that it's like you don't have control of the outcome of it. All you can do is make this effort or action of
Uh-huh.
serving, and you just have to let go and not get so attached to I did this so this should happen to me, or I did this so this person should be thanking me or be happy, or you just have to let it all go and kind of like
Yeah.
find contentment in that the action or effort that you
Mhm.
make. So
There's so much wisdom in that little teaching. That is, like, so profound. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Oh, okay. And next question I have is like, where do you see yourself going? Like, where does your, teaching or sharing career or your path, I guess your journey, like, are you quite content with what it is now? Or is it like certain aspirations or certain direction you want to move towards in
Mm.
this, this life, this journey?
We'll have to be cliché first, just because I really feel it, like, I'm gonna stay right here, right? I'm gonna be right here. Right here is good, and I think I could set the intention is to help all beings. That's the intention, and I really feel like my practice, our practice, the love that we hold is more powerful than anything we do. Like, you could do things and do courses and classes, and you could be like the Dalai Lama, you know? But
Mhm.
there's 100 Dalai Lamas in the Himalayas right now just meditating. And I really feel, not to get, airy-fairy or whatever, our meditations and the love that we carry and the consciousness that we are, that's the most powerful thing. That's the most successful thing. The other things that manifest are almost accidental or whatnot. But if we hold the intention, like, I really want to assist freeing all beings, including myself, from suffering,
Mhm.
let that manifest how it wants to manifest
Mhm.
and be content in wherever I am in that journey. Totally cool with me. I'm totally fine wherever I am within whatever my quote unquote life looks like. I'm totally cool with that. As long as I feel like I'm doing my part in serving others, then I'm totally cool.
Thank you. And is there anything else that I don't know that I missed or haven't asked yet that you want to share with everyone else before I ask you how they can find you? But is there anything else I missed in this conversation or anything that you feel like you still want to share?
No, just thank you. I think you're awesome. I think you carry all that, what I was talking about, just in your essence and your teaching and your commitment to your practice. And I really feel that from you, regardless of what you put out into the world as far as your offerings go. So I just want to thank you for the opportunity and thank you for your practice that's evident.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And now tell the listeners how they can find you or like, any offerings you have, or if they want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so my main platform is IG. So at Cayce Howe, CayceHowe. And Dharma friends are hard to find. So feel free to DM me at any time. I feel like it's so cool to have a Dharma friend. Like any spiritual friend is just a gem. So definitely feel free to reach out to me, DM me, say hi. And then we have a Sunday sit here in Long Beach. So it's been happening, yeah, over 11 years now, I believe. Every single Sunday, it's in person and online. So feel free to join us. It's a half an hour sit, it's a little Dharma talk. We get together as a group. It's very, um, how would you say, Reka? It's a very casual group, and we have an eclectic bunch of teachers, mostly based in the Theravada Buddhist tradition, but
Mhm.
we have, gosh, about 5 or 6 now rotating teachers that are just wonderful, different views on things, and so, yeah, you could find us through Insight LA for the Dharma group, or you could just simply DM me too. It's
Mhm.
somewhere on my caycehowe.com website that needs a revamping, but it's on there too. Yeah.
And from hearing your story today, like you started that in Long Beach, right? Like you're the one, it seems like you said you were used to just sit, meet on the beach, and then that kind of translated into, because I know you did the inside teacher training, and that kind of
Yeah.
combined, and now there's this thing in
Yeah,
Long Beach.
exactly. Yeah, we would get made fun of too much on the beach. People would, like, make, like, yeah, I don't know, it's hard to have a group of meditators on the beach on a Sunday, in Long Beach.
Yes.
So, we had to move it indoors,
Uh-huh.
and then I never wanted it to be about me or really even, quote, unquote, "be the teacher" anyway. So, it was so cool when I got, connected with Inside LA. Inside LA, I got connected with really amazing teachers that have incredible backgrounds, like
Mhm.
decades of practice and all of that. So it was perfect synergy there. So yeah, we were folded in within the first, couple years, folded into Inside LA, kind of annex it, if you will. Yeah, a branch of Inside LA. So we folded it into Inside LA group. Yeah.
And I highly recommend. I know there's multiple meditation groups probably in Long Beach, but I really like the Sunday sit at Sacred Roots. I feel like, yeah, like everyone's super welcoming and laid back there. And
Yeah.
they like, it seems like everybody know each other. They've been like meditating together for a long time. I feel like
Hmm.
everybody I talked to was like, I'm studying with Casey for 6 years, 5 years,
Yeah.
10 years. Everybody just
Yeah.
history with you.
People come and they just like stay. Just like, that's cool. Yeah. Just keep coming to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know you offer sometime like longer courses. Like I just finished taking your 6 weeks of fundamentals of Buddhism course,
Hmm.
and I know you're hoping to kind of keep going with those kind of longer 6 week series. So
Yeah.
if you are doing another one, I'm sure you'll let everybody know on your social media or
Yeah,
newsletters.
exactly. Yeah, we're about to do the next one. It's gonna be on awareness of awareness, which is something I've always been wary of teaching on because it's kind of borders on quote unquote emptiness practices and whatnot. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that one. That will be for intermediate and advanced practitioners, quote unquote only. It won't make much sense if you're a beginner. It's not gonna make much sense anyway. That's the whole point. But yeah, and I'm excited. I was just texting Sacred Roots about the dates. So actually we will be launching that soon. Yeah, if you get in touch with me or a group, we'll be posting about that soon. Actually, it'll be on Sunday evenings, and I don't know if I said it, but online and in person. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So
I think it's so great that I love being in person whenever possible because I have
yeah,
harder time concentrating and focusing if I'm online.
right. Yeah,
But I love that there's online options because I know
yeah,
some people can join from different, cities, states, and even
for
different
sure,
countries.
for
So
sure. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much, Casey, for all
Thank
that
you,
you
Reka.
do. Like, I feel like you really are, like you said, genuinely wanting to serve others, or like what you said, you want everyone to be,
Free
what,
from
what's,
suffering.
yeah, from
To be
suffering. Yeah, I
happy
was
and free
gonna
from
say
suffering.
everyone to be
Yeah,
happy. Like, that's not it. Free from suffering.
free from suffering. Yeah,
I know you do it with so much like thoughtfulness and genuine care. So I
oh,
really
thank you.
appreciate you, and I really appreciate knowing you and having you in the circle here in Long Beach. So thank you so much for
Likewise,
taking time
likewise.
today.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to the conversation I had with Cayce. What did you think? I really loved having this conversation with Cayce, and when I was editing the podcast, listening to this conversation again really warmed my heart, because I really can feel and tell his love and passion and genuine authenticity of someone who love and live the Dharma. So it was really cool to speak to him, and I think it's not every day that you come across someone like that. So I hope that came across in the conversation and on this podcast. Like I shared during the conversation, I have done 10 days of silent meditation before, and he have done 1 year of silent meditation, and that just like blows my mind, and it shows the dedication he have to this path. But it's so interesting to hear that he didn't even want to leave after that 1 year. He wanted to keep meditating. And what really stuck with me was how he said, you don't need to retreat, you don't need the Dharma, you don't need the teaching. That's the realization that he came to at the end. And he has so much wisdom to share, and you can feel that when you're around his presence. So I really, really recommend joining on any of his offering. He does lead a Sunday sit here that happens every weekend in Long Beach at Sacred Roots. He doesn't lead every Sunday, like he said in the conversation. There are multiple other meditation teachers that they take turns, but they're all amazing. And he is actually going to start a new series coming up. I think it starts in July of 2025. So I'll put the link to that course that he'll be teaching again, the course on awareness. And I will be planning to join that. And I really love the community he have built, and just being able to join the Sangha, the community in person and learn together is so amazing. So thank you, Cayce, so much for all that you do, and amazing community that you have built, and such a beautiful teaching that you teach by these courses and community sit. But mostly I think you teach by example, and I really love that. So thank you, Cayce. I'll put the link to how you can get in touch with him, Sunday Sit, as well as his new upcoming course. And if you have any questions, feedback, or anything you want to chat with me about, I really love it when listeners reach out to me. So best way to reach out to me is on Instagram. My Instagram is @ReikaYoga. Or if you don't use social media, you can message me through my website, www.reikayoga.com. I'll put all the links on the show notes. And I would love for you to leave a 5-star on Spotify, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, 5-star and a review. Anything like that is going to be super helpful for the longevity of this podcast. But most importantly, just share this podcast with your friends, co-workers, or your yoga teachers, anyone you think might enjoy listening to this podcast. That would mean so much to me. So that is it for me today. I hope you enjoy the conversation, and I will speak to you next week. Bye.